Today, we're going to talk about who to hire for scientific sales. What we've got here is we're going to look at particularly specifics around whether we want graduates or PhDs or experienced sales staff. We're not talking about you should hire Dave Jones from 142 Acacia Avenues. We're talking about generally, what do different levels of experience give you when you're hiring for scientific sales? Now, there's a couple of things about this because obviously, it's going to depend on your situation and what you need. So we've tried to give you a kind of a matrix to think around and apply it to yourselves. So before we start, I always get time for a quick advert. We're Guido Scientific. There are 7 of us, a mix of consultants and applications and business development staff in themselves. And we help companies in science launch, strengthen, or accelerate their business. If you want to find out more, see www.guidoscientific.com. Anyway, we'll talk more about that at the end, but we'll go into this. So first of all, we're going to find out who we're going to hire for scientific sales. And the big thing is, the warning is, this is my opinion. I have probably hired close to 100 people in my career. I have also fired people. I've moved people on. I've moved people into different positions. I've transitioned people from sales to sales. I've done lots of different things. And this is just about my experience. I've hired lots of graduates, lots of PhDs, lots of experienced salespeople, and I've made loads of mistakes. and it's pretty normal for you to do that. But my situation here, and I'll move myself over to the side so we can't see it a little bit better, is that in this case, my aim here really is to kind of help you think around what you should be doing when you're thinking about hiring people into a business, because you want to get the right people. I think when people get hired and they get the wrong expectations and people aren't communicating together, people get generally upset. And people want to do one thing. Everyone wants to succeed. I've never met anyone who doesn't want to succeed. So we're going to look at this who you can hire question, and we're going to look at it in 3 different ways. We're going to look at costs of people, how much salary you should pay them, so on. And then we're going to look at how good we think they are going to be in a number of tasks, say 3 months into the role. And then very specifically, we're going to look at things like how long it's going to take them to be useful in doing a particular job you want them to do, like quoting or closing a big deal, for example. So before we start, let's get into the cost section. Who can we hire and how much are they going to cost? So I got 4 different groups here. I've got 4. There are really 5, but we'll start with 4. So we've got a graduate. A graduate, we're going to hire for scientific sales. For me, I want to have someone with a Bachelor of Science degree. I can make other degrees work, but Bachelor of Sciences work particularly well. And they're a fresh grad. I'm talking one year after the graduation. I'm kind of trying to hire them. And that, for me, and depending on it, I probably put a master's in there as well. For the UK, I wouldn't for the US. It's sort of a mid-range position in the US. For the PhD, I'm looking at 2 types of PhDs. I'm going to have a PhD, someone who's been in research, who wants to move into industry. And then I have someone who's moved into industry, who's done something like an applications job for a year or 2. They work for a company. So a couple of classes of PhDs. For the sales guy, I'm talking about an experienced sales guy. And I'm talking about somebody who has done selling, whether it be for a parallel market or a slightly different market. Because chances are you're not going to get someone who's actually in your market. So, for example, we sold cameras in my career, and the cameras went on microscopes. So what did we hire? We occasionally hired microscope reps or microscope imaging system reps, or we would hire people from the illumination industry or connected industries. So the sales guy, the person there is going to be somebody who's been in the industry for 10, 15 years, knows how to sell, but not necessarily your products in your specific markets. And then we've got the legend. We've got the absolute legend in the market, the rock star, you'd call it, the person who knows all the people to phone and everything else. So 4 types of profiles we're going to look at, but we're actually going to look over them over 5 types of areas. So I'm going to review these for everything we're talking about. So the first thing is we're going to have a geographical impact because it costs more money depending on where you are in the world. Kind of know this is pretty straightforward. Places cost different amounts to live, and so people cost different amounts for those places. My house in London would be significantly smaller for the cash, and in Birmingham it's quite large. So there are differences. We know things cost, but depending on the area. We know that downtown New York is going to cost a lot more than living out in New Jersey, right? Or Wyoming or whatever it is. You just know there are different costs for things. So you know there are different costs based on the area because, the expense of living there, but there are also different costs because of the talent within that region. If you want to hire somebody into, for example, Boston, Massachusetts, right, for doing life science sales, well, there are a lot of people that want people in Boston, Massachusetts for life science, and it's expensive. So you're going to pay top dollar, quite literally, because of the fact it's expensive to live there and because the competition for resources in the area is high. And then you've got to think about skills being viewed differently. So, for example, a PhD in the United Kingdom has less value to an employer than it does in China. In China, they will pay very high salaries in places like Shanghai for people with PhDs. You're almost running at the levels of a PhD at a coastal city in the US. Really expensive for a PhD. And in the US, a master's qualification is significantly harder in terms of time and effort to get than it would be, for example, in the UK, where a lot of the time that's an extension year. I'm not taking it away from people. I'm just saying that there are different values around these places. The other thing I would say about the geography is that basically you don't really need to have people in the same place. If you had someone in Seattle, could they not fly down and cover San Diego? Do they really need to be there every day of the week? And that's down to you. It's down to your products and how much they need to physically touch customers. You can really easily cover the East Coast of the United States from the UK, right? Even including traveling. The costs have gone up a little bit, but we had a situation where a rep of ours left the New England area and we gave a UK young rep an opportunity and they flew over for the year. There are opportunities for burnout. There are problems around these things, but just understand the cost of these things. And you might say, I really want them to be there, but how much value is it them really being there? And it's fine if you want them there as long as you use them in that place as well. So you're going to get regional variations, which is why when we look at these things, we're going to have ranges. And what I've done here is I put all the costs in US dollars for people in the UK, divide by 1.3 in Europe, keep it like just change 1 for 1 roughly. But I've given the cost for the UK. Obviously, I don't have France and Germany. France and Germany are higher than the UK and probably lower than the US. But there are little hotspots for this, things like Munich and so on. You're going to pay a little bit more for these things. But think about these things and you can talk about other areas as well. But for example, if I want a graduate in the UK, I can go hire a graduate in Birmingham for 22,000 a year, something like that. And all the way through to £25,000, which will equate between 30 and 45. If I want a PhD out of industry, I just hard one this up. You're paying somewhere between 35 and 40,000 pounds, so you're paying that higher mark. Those salaries are much, much more expensive in the US, and particularly they're going to be more expensive in the US because going to college costs more, surviving this environment costs more, competition's higher. So just understand you're going to pay a lot more for people in those environments. And if you're paying that PhD from industry thing, you're going to pay them more because they've got a little bit of experience. They come a little bit, a little bit more knowledgeable about the working world. You don't have to do this. This is how we really do need you here at 9, or we really do need you to fill in the form that we asked you for. You've gone through a lot of that pain. Your experienced sales reps are going to go up again. So your experienced sales reps, they've worked in the industry. It might be a parallel or a similar industry for you. They've kind of done a good job. You're talking like £100,000 in the UK, 140 to 160. In the US, you're talking 160 to 200. And these are going up as, again, regional variations. You'll find some outside of this range, I'm absolutely sure. But you're going to pay more for these types of people in those things. Your rock stars, you pay a rock star in the UK close to a managing director's salary. And in the US, you're going to pay a rock star a really good salary, 250 to 300. And I've met and interviewed over my time people in positions, say for like confocal microscope sales reps, who are bringing in total comp plans of $350,000, $400,000. So there are some very well-paid people in this market that exist at the very high end. But again, remember that comes with talent and revenue. So you're going to get some differences. Now, I'm going to average these. So I'm doing the math for you in average. And the reason I want to average them is because I want to talk to you about real-world costs of actually employing people. The salary is what we pay the person. They get taxed and then they have money. But the company then needs to pay a lot of additional costs. So this is where you see the jump. You can see, well, okay, that graduate that cost me $35,000 actually cost me 50, right? And it's going to cost me more the higher up the scale I go. And in the UK, you're going to have things like employers' national insurance. I have to pay tax on the people. It's about 15% a year. I'm going to have to pay insurance for those people. Each of those people is going to have a laptop. They're going to have software licenses all the way through. They're going to have pension contributions. I have to have all these policies around them. And that doesn't even take into account the management time or the travel time or the depreciation of the demonstration inventory. People cost a lot. That's why these things are really, really important. But also remember, you can't do a lot of stuff without them, right? You're going to need them. They're really useful when they're useful. So you've got to get the right ones. And that's why this picking bit is really important. But the first thing is I want you to really understand how much these people cost. Now, it depends on your situation. Maybe you're a startup company and you've got this hell for leather attitude on revenue and you've been given some money by a venture capitalist. Here's $50 million. Go get us revenue. Go get rock stars, right? It's all dependent on your situation. Maybe you're cautious and you want to grow slowly and get the best bang for your buck. Graduates in science, right? Keep them growing and they do really, really well. So costs are important to us. I also want to talk about costs changing, because I want you to think this great deal you're getting with your graduate or your PhD, they're going to go up. Because it's the UK salaries and I plot them over time or what you should want to do. The minute you get someone good, and just understand on average, you're going to get a third of them are going to be outstanding and you're going to want to keep them, right? A third of them are going to be okay and probably are going to go in about a year or two, even faster sometimes. And then a third of them are going to be all right, pretty good, solid performers. But the minute they've stayed there for a while, they become the target for someone else. And in order to keep them, what you have to keep doing, and what I found successful, is modifying their responsibilities every 2 years. Or you just get the flat ones. They're very rare, but you need, particularly nowadays, as the culture of people coming out of universities is much more oriented to experience collection than just flat paying off a mortgage. These guys are stamp collectors. They're more like Cub Scouts than there are, going through this kind of old school, like as I would be as a Gen Xer, that you have differences around what they want. So you're going to see a really steep increase, or should do that. I don't know which way around it works for you. You're going to see that steeper for the people that are coming in cheaper, and it's going to be shallower for the people that come in as experienced, because they've already done that additional leap through, right? So you're going to get your rock stars are going to go up a little bit each year. They're going to want that, and then they're going to move, and someone's going to pay them more and so on. So you've got this kind of like salary over time. So you're a great deal on your graduate. Understand they're going to go. Now, tactically, it's completely fine. We did this. We had a bad situation in our business for about 5 years. We said, we're rebuilding. This is our rebuild plan. And we said to ourselves, we can't afford these other people. We're going to get graduates and we're going to get PhDs out of academia. And we know they're going to leave. We just know we know we're going to have them for 2 years, 2.5 years. And we know they're going to move on to something else. But for those 2.5 years, they got an incredibly good experience. They learned lots of skills and they flourished in their careers they've gone through. So it wasn't a bad deal for them, but we built that into the program, which meant our training had to be so much faster. Our adoption had to be so much faster. We really had to put the energy into them. They couldn't allow for any drift. How much are you going to take you of your time to manage these people, right? Well, just understand the graduate is going to take 5 days a month. Realistically, you're going to have problems. People are going to spend time. It might not be your time, but people are going to have to be working with them. They're going to more likely to want to be in an office environment. Okay, sometimes outside that, but they're still going to be needing that time by the end of the year. They still need this because they'll need high levels of coaching and interaction. And your academics, again, they're gonna go way faster. They need they need downtime work. If they're not selling, you've got to give them stuff to do, app notes or something else that keeps them interested, or finding new people, whatever it is. You've got to keep these people. What you can't do with people is you can't leave them on the shelf like a tool and go, oh yeah, I need a drill now, and then take it off. These people have to constantly have about 130% of the amount of work that they could possibly do. Otherwise, they start to rot a little bit. For your experienced salespeople or your experts in Rockstar, it doesn't matter where they are. As soon as they've got experience, it's pretty good. You're going to need a couple of days of co-piloting with them and so on, and getting them into the business. By 6 months done, you'll just want catch-ups and information from them, and to kind of make sure it's going well in a forecast update kind of way. So you're only going to need like a day, a month out of these people once they've gone past 6 months. So anyway, that's your kind of thing. How many days a month are you going to need by the time in? So that's a little bit about cost, a little bit about what you can think about, how much people cost. But then I want to think about, well, what can these people actually do and when can they do it? Because you're going to have different jobs for them to do. And the way I look at these jobs is I go back to the sales disc model. This is the book I wrote, which I bore everyone with every time. So we'll talk about this at the end. But basically, I chop up the jobs in the sale and I say there are four things we need for a sale. We need to develop the sale. So there's demos and quoting and other bits and pieces. We need to identify lead processing or prospecting or business development or farming, those types of things. Some people do service. Some people have the salesperson do service. Maybe the salesperson does the install or sells the warranty or does training, other bits like that. And then you've got the knowledge, which is the bit where people go, oh, I really want somebody to talk about the science with them, particularly as we talk about scientific industry. I really want somebody who talks about the science with them on their level. Well, there are lots of different types of knowledge, right? I'll talk about this when we get it. But if you're, again, that startup, do you want someone instantly with the Rolodex full of people they can phone, the relationships that you can explore, you can just steal them from the other person? Again, it's totally up to you and what you need. So we'll look at these groups of people and we'll look at them by the actual kind of jobs we're going to need. So we're going to measure people. We're going to say, okay, based on the jobs, 3 months in, let's give them a score out of 1 to 5, right? 1 being they're not very good at that job and 5 being they're really good at that job. So you'll get this as we go through. But again, we have down the left-hand side, we have the types of people that we can employ. And then we have across the top, the types of jobs. So in selling, there's lots of listening and positioning. There's configuring and quoting. There's demonstrating and there's deal making. Different forms of demonstrating. We can talk about that later on. But let's talk about the job of listening and positioning first of all. So first of all, new people to sales have a tendency of not being very good at listening and positioning. You have to train for this because most of the time, fresh salespeople will fire facts at you. That's what they want. They want to tell you things. They want to evangelize. They don't want to listen and respond. Your salespeople, experienced salespeople, they'll nail this out the past. They're really good at listening and obtaining what we call key application information. They'll obtain all the sales information, timescales, everything. Very normal for them to get that and to go, oh, you're doing that. This is a really handy feature. They're going to be great at that. Your early people aren't going to be great because it takes time to learn sales. Configuring and quoting, look, to be honest with you, most people can learn configuring and quoting. Some things can be like, maybe you have this really high-end thing, but normally within 3 months, you can get people pretty good at that. So that's normally across the board. Demonstrating, well, look, here, your graduate in science is going to be a little bit harder. Your PhDs are actually going to get quite good at this. They quite like this. Initially, they're going to run off to making a training exercise or telling you everything they find interesting, but actually demonstrating products or demonstrating capability, the PhD group do really, really well at because that's what they've been. They've been in PhDs. They've been playing with equipment and science. They love it. Everyone loves a day out doing a demo, right? So they're really good at that bit. And experienced salespeople have done it as their bread and butter. What about deal making? Well, clearly, you're not going to let people make deals, structure deals, talk to high-end people if they're a graduate or PhD fresh to sales. That's something you're going to keep away from them. You're going to have to co-pilot them. There's going to have to be things that say, hey, you call me in at this point, ... Unless it's a phone sale, a $2,000, $3,000 sale, something like that. Your experienced salespeople are going to be really good at it. Your experts and rock stars, your rock star guy, what are they going to do? They're going to work out very quickly. Within 3 months, they've done all the permission and forgiveness stuff. They've worked out what they can get away with through you as the boss, right? That's it. They know what they're doing. Okay, let's look at the next section, identifying, right? So we have the identify segment inside Salesforce. Our jobs here are lead processing. I get a lead in, someone fills in a form. How do I talk to them? Right? And getting on to doing it. Farming, which is calling existing customers and say, hey, you had the such and such module. Would you like this one? Or can we come talk to you? Prospecting, which is calling people you don't know, who haven't had another product. And then business development, which is this Very different place where you're coming from a different market where no one knows you and so on, and you have to make special calls. Right, we did a webinar on that. If you've not seen it, we can talk more about that. So the first thing is we've got lead processing. Your graduates are going to rock it out the park on lead processing. And they're going to rock it out on a lot of the categories across here. Why? Because when a graduate walks out of university, they want to be able to fund all the things that they want to fund, like drinks and clothes and living away from their parents. That's what they want. And they will boldly do a lot of things that most other people won't do. Your academics, your PhDs and PhDs from industries, my experience, and remember this is my experience, is they have more problems with initial customer contact and talking to people, right? They have more problems, particularly as you go into the farming and the business development. They don't like making people feel uncomfortable through cold calling or interruption. Your salespeople are fine across the board here, right? They're fine across the board here. They're pretty good at all of these things. But in this category, if you need to find business or process business or anything else, graduates are really great. And this is why they sit in what we used to call internal sales before we rebranded it under customer success or all manner of different sales development reps and all these. Somebody who sits in the office and makes calls and gets stuff done, who isn't a top-end salesperson that comes in. Graduates are great at this. And that's what they do really well. They are automated dialing machines that just get stuff done. And the reason I'll go back, the reason they want to get stuff done is, again, they want to do it, but they want to move to the next level. They see your existing salespeople or other salespeople in the market, and they see them driving around in a car someone else is paying for, and buying nice things and doing nice things at weekends. That's what they're looking at. Servicing. So look at the service segment of Sales Disc. What have we got here? Installs and training, customer support, customer engagement, and warranty add-ons. So installs and training, your graduate's not going to be great. They're going to do their best. They're probably going to think about it a bit more actually than your PhDs, your academics. But your PhDs and your academics are going to love this. This is exactly up the street to a point of distraction. They're going to love this bit of getting the kit and getting it done because they've lived the other side of this. They've lived struggling with equipment. They enjoy it. This is brilliant for them. They're going to love it. It's going to be a distraction. They might not do their target because they're doing this. Your experienced salespeople from a different industry, but they're a little bit behind as well. They've got to learn the products. They've got to understand it. So they're not going to be too hot at this because they come from a different market. If you sold light sources to biologists and then you sell cameras to biologists, different gig. Sales, still biologists, still selling. Your rock star is going to be fine, as they are in most cases. But again, go back and look at that ticket price. What about support? Salespeople, really kind of graduates are going to be really kind of a bit wonky here. Everyone else is going to be okay within 3 months because they can't really understand how to support people. They haven't worked out. They've got less hands-on experience with stuff. It's harder for them to do this thing. Customer engagement. This is where you would phone up and ask for references, referrals. And again, that graduate will just do. Everyone else doesn't really like it. So they're not going to be good at it. And the same as selling warranty and add-ons. If you want people to sell warranty and add-ons, graduates are great at this and they will get lots of stuff done. So what's the final thing? The final thing is knowledge. And we all go, oh, I want to, and I love this when people say, I want a scientist to sell to a scientist, or I want somebody with all this. Well, let's start putting it down. Do you have domain knowledge? I wouldn't be very good selling cars. I wouldn't be very good. I don't know the domain. I tell you what, I really understand selling into academia and selling into the biotech and pharma market. I've done that. I understand it. I've done meetings in it. I've met the different types of people. I understand how it works. I understand the principal investigator gets the money and the PhD people try and spend it. Here's how tenders. I understand how it is to exist in that world. That's your domain knowledge, right? So your domain knowledge is the first thing. Your expert's clearly going to rock it out. You're going to get some work from the PhD in industry and the experienced salesperson. They probably, if you sold a light source, you're going to have gone into a university lab before. You know what it's like. You understand it. If you've done it in academia, and graduates probably don't understand it. I didn't understand how a university worked when I was an undergrad. I didn't really understand any of that, right? I just turned up and did the lectures. So what about the next one, which is territory knowledge? There are these 3 accounts in Cambridge. They do this each year. I know how they work. I know people there. I know how we can get a meeting. I know how it is. That's what you're getting there. Territory knowledge is incorporating the people and the places, right? You know, I know how to get my way around, like, you know, San Francisco. I know the Bay Area reasonably well. I don't know, probably shouldn't. I know Oxford, all right? You know, there are little things that over time you just know about, and you know the people and the places put together, and that's going to give you your territory knowledge. And again, graduates have got nothing. The academics are a little bit better because they kind of understand a little bit. Well, I was at university here and I knew people there. Your experienced salespeople again, but your rock stars are going to bring you everything all together. They're going to know the people in the places. They're going to turn up. It's not going to take them any time to get running. Again, that's what you're paying for when you're getting this. Product knowledge. You know, your product knowledge here, let's reverse it. Expert or rockstar in the market. I'll tell you about Hamamatsu 4880 from 2000. Do you want to know the full well capacity? I mean, anybody in a market that's been in the market, is a rockstar in the market, knows their own products that they're selling, particularly with 3 months in, but they know all the competitors as well. They know all the ways of doing it, right? So there's tremendously high. If you've come from a parallel market, you don't really have that, but you can get on board relatively quickly, but you're not going to have the history. No one's going to turn around and go, oh, in the old day, we used to use the Kodak 4040 sensor. They're not talking about that. 2020, don't get cross. Anyway, your PhDs and so on, are they going to be okay? PhDs are going to learn it pretty quickly, and your graduate from science is going to be, I have to turn my head around my camera, is going to be about 2. That's fine. Application knowledge, well, your graduates, you know, when I was an undergrad, I didn't read papers. I didn't understand how things worked. I just kind of was doing a degree. I was getting my ticket, if you like. Maybe I was the odd one out. I got thrown out of labs for eating chocolate bars. So I wasn't exactly the ideal candidate. Your PhDs and your PhDs for industry are going to be ace at applications. Why? Because they understand how to research, and they understand how to look at papers, how to look for further, how to ask people about it, how to engage people. They're really good at getting the apps really quickly, right? If they haven't lived it, they'll work it out pretty quickly based on the research that they can do and looking stuff up on the internet, etc. Your experienced salespeople probably not so. It's harder for salespeople from a different industry to pick up applications. Just understand it. Unless they've got a scientific background, I genuinely know a lot of stuff, but I know the applications to a level where I can sell. I don't know it to an application level point. Rock stars know it. They know it because they're selling to it at a very high level. Normally, they're going to come in and go, yeah, you want someone for Storm? Oh, you're doing DNA paint? Brilliant, good. Oh, I had a guy doing this. They know it. And again, that's what you're talking about. Now, understand all the way through, if your job here is, well, I just need to get some demos done, right? Because at the moment, I just need to get some demos done. We'll find the people. We can use marketing for that. I've got some stuff. Go get a PhD. Right? If your job is, I just need to find loads of people to contact, and I've got this massive list of people, go get yourself a graduate. If your job is, I need to instantly win, right? Then you get a rock star. If your job is, I need a solid salesperson that can perform, and I'm willing to put the time in to train them to convert to my market, then get yourself an experienced salesperson. And that holds true for all of this. This is about you and working out what you need, rather than going, I want a hunter. I want this. I want that. You should think about the individual tasks that you need in the sale, which is why I wrote the Sales Disc book, right? So you have these on these slides here for you to work out what you need. And by the way, if you say what you need and change it, that's when the problems come, or the expectation is really bad. You know, I worked with some people and they were like, yeah, we're coming in here to do demos and that's really great. And it's like, look, 60% of what you need to do is prospecting. I'm really sorry they didn't tell you, right? So you get a lot of these situations where people are slightly missold what selling is when you're doing it. The last thing is then, well, if we get these people, well, how quickly is it going to get them up to speed? You know, I need people quoting. I need them doing this. I need that. Well, again, like everything, this is down to the people and how much effort you're going to put into training them and how it works and so on, and how complicated your life is. This is what I found. I can get a graduate demonstrating a system, and by demonstrating, it may be being able to control a demonstration and being able to do a pitch demonstration. Someone walks up to them at a trade show and says, how does that work? And they go, hey, let me just show you how it works to do this, right? Maybe it's just that rather than anything more, a demonstration of capability, driving, controlling a demo 30 days. Your PhD is 15 days. Again, once you get them through it is not training, it is actually a demo. It is an act. This is a play. You get the training later on. This is about proving capability. Your rock stars get it really quickly. Your timing to actually making a call or a cold call or having a decent conversation, your graduates and your PhDs from academia, they're so fresh. Your salespeople clearly are going to get onto it fine. We used to do, and I still love doing the training. Some of you might be on it that's actually done it. I remember Mike was on it. We used to get people on the phone and we'd listen and record them, and you can actively hear the point 30 to 45 seconds in the call where the person who's getting the call goes, I'm really sorry, I'm in a meeting. And what that says is you were so jumbled in what you were saying that the customer is now making an excuse to get off the phone. Because most people do answer the phone when they're in a meeting. If they're really interested, they keep talking. But you need to go through how to train the people to call and what it's going to be like and planning it. So it takes a bit more time for those guys because they haven't done it. I have recordings of calls that we've made with our people talking from years back, and it's really interesting to hear them mishear things and so on. That's why you get decent sales training and so on, right? Time to support, look, it's going to take your PhDs and everyone 30 days. The reason your rock star is so fast is because your rock star will get into your business and wiggle their way to the engineers and the support people and make sure that they're doing support. Everyone else is going to try and work it out and do it themselves. Your rock stars will do, I'm going to make this happen. You're going to support these people for me because I don't have time, because I'm a rock star and I want to get selling. Your graduate's going to take longer. What about time to a major deal? Right? A major deal for me, it depends on your size. If you're selling something for $3,000 as an ASP, your major deal will be $100,000. If you're selling something for $500,000, a major deal for you is going to be $500,000 or $1 million. It's dependent. But just understand, if you haven't done any sales, you're going to need to co-pilot those people for at least 150 days, half a year. They're going to need co-piloting through by somebody who knows how to do sales. And that's why there are people on here and people on here consultants as well. This is where people come in and help. Or you take a senior salesperson to come in. If you don't have any salespeople, you get people like me to come in and help you on deals when you're closing it and trying to make it work. Otherwise, you just, you can lose a lot of time and energy here. Your experienced salesperson, they'll need some co-piloting, and your experts in the market, again, for a deal, they're thinking about what they can get away with because they just need success. That's what they do. And of course, they want commission checks and everything else, but oh my God, they want success. And if you've moved as a rock star, the extra pay and everything else, it doesn't equate the fact that you're a rock star and what you want to do is play Wembley, right? You need success. You need to prove that your reason to move, and all those guys that were doing it slightly wrong, you proved them right because you made the right choice. So there's a real quick time for a deal for them. So as I said, this is an understanding and a way of looking at the differences of these types of people and giving you some metrics and ideas to talk about it. So, and again, it's based on opinion. I've hired lots of different people. You might tell me, oh, we paid $350 for these people. Maybe it's good. Maybe that's what your market's like. What you shouldn't do is, and this happens a lot during acquisitions, is your acquisitions will start doing studies in the market. Oh, how much would a business development manager cost me in Birmingham? You go, well, it costs you that much. What about in your industry? What does it work in your industry? Because your industry is important. You might pay a product manager, I don't know, $100,000 a year. You might pay a product manager in this industry $250,000 a year. So it's all relative. So you need to do a little bit of feeling around yourself. Just make sure you're comfortable with it and talk to people like me if you want to. That's how it kind of works. So that's it. That's what we've done for today. I think 35 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, I'll hang on at the end. Or you can also just send me a message through LinkedIn and say, your direct messages, connect, whatever, and just say, yep, I have some questions around this. I'd like to talk to you. But whatever you've got around that, that's fine. The final thing, and we do this at the end of every webinar, is that we come in and we say, look, if you like that and that was useful, then if you want to, and this is what we used to do, buy people a drink. If you buy a copy of Sales Disc, then you are exactly giving me the money. Once Amazon and everyone else has taken their cut off it, I get about £5 and I can go off and buy myself a pint of beer in a pub and avoid my family and responsibilities or whatever. So if you want to buy me a drink, then buy a copy of Sales Disc. It's on Amazon. If you want paper, it's got Kindle. There's an audiobook for it on Audible and on Apple. That's all in there. It's a worthy read, and you apparently, if you read it now, you will hear my voice as you read it, which will be lovely for you. If you get the Audible, it's an American chap who's quite interesting. Voice goes up and down a lot, but it's still good. The other thing is, as I mentioned this at the beginning, on the September the 8th, we're going to do another webinar, which is about AI and just how to use this in a practical way in your job. If you want to make a little program plugin, or if you want to, not the real deep stuff. We don't get into that, but how could you use it in a practical way every day in your job to make your job easier is what we're kind of pitching out here, and understanding a little bit more of it before the machines take over. Anyway, that's it for now. That's the end of it. If you want more information from us, then again, it's guidoscientific.com. You can talk to us if you need to, direct message us with any questions. But in the meantime, I shall leave it on this page, and I will wait for any questions that you have